during your in DG of the Public Film Service, can you share with us your major challenges?
The environment of the public sector comes with a lot of challenges. There are the usual ones of funding. You never have enough money to do everything you want to do. You never have enough time to do everything you want to do. You never have the kind of, or rather we currently don't have the kind of personnel we would have liked to recruit, because the pay is so poor, you can't attract the best talent, so you have to make do with what you have. You're also contending with politicians who have their own agenda and who have a short-term vision for the work that they want to do. You're contending with a public service that has lost morale over the last few years. You're contending with a public that has very limited information about the way government actually works, and therefore automatically assumes that everybody in government is a thief, everybody in government has nothing upstairs, they're always looking to cheat, they're incompetent and corrupt. So you have that image that the public has. You have the politicians who also, like I said, are in a hurry because they have limited time to do the work that they want to do. And you have a skeptical public who don't believe that anything good is happening or can be done. So those are, I think, the main challenges that people in the public sector have to contend with.
Comparing your social media account to that of the Nigerian police, that's the office of the PCRU, headed by Mr. Yomi Shogunle, and Mr. Yomi Shogunle, Abah Yomi Shogunle, has been using a model of communication where he doesn't want to be questioned, he doesn't like to be questioned. Over the past 2 weeks, he has blocked like 3-4 of his followers on Twitter. Do you think this model of communication of his is a good one?
I'm not sure it would be fair for me to comment on the way an individual runs their personal social media account. I don't think that would be fair. I don't think it would be fair to judge anyone. I can tell you what I would do in a similar circumstance, but our backgrounds are the same, are not the same rather. Abah Yomi Shogunle has taken a bullet, literally in the course of his duty. That conditions you as a person. Abah Yomi Shogunle is a policeman. I'm not. The police works to a command and control structure where orders are obeyed without question. I'm not from that kind of a background. That's why I said it would be unfair for me to judge anyone. I know that in my own time as DG BPSR, I made a conscious effort not to block anybody. I never blocked even one person, although it was my personal account. But that's me. I also tried as much as I could to be polite and courteous, because although we have this distinction between a personal account and an official account, a public official is public property. So you can't always draw that sharp distinction between what you do with your private handle and what you do with your public handle. A public official should at all times know that he or she is public property, and that whatever actions you undertake has a way of reflecting on the organization you work for. As human beings, we also lose our tempers, and I think you'll probably be aware that I've had a couple of disagreements with Mr. Shogunle in the past, and those disagreements had never been anything to do with him. It was my opinion as the person in charge of reforms in the country about how government officials should behave. And so I criticized the way that the police disrupted certain protesters that were, I think led by Charlie Boy, and then appeared to provide protection to other protesters that appeared to favor the government. And I felt that was unprofessional, and I criticized it. It seems Mr. Shogunle felt that I was not in a position to say so. I strongly believed I was. being in charge of public service reforms. And I'm still convinced that it was my job to call out anybody that did anything wrong and also to praise anybody that did anything right. And so I was merely doing my job, and I have no regrets whatsoever about speaking out against poor service delivery. Most of the agencies we actually got to improve their services, we started off on a difficult note. So even the Road Safety Commission, I had to escalate matters before I got their Twitter handle to be responsive to citizens. The same thing with the National Youth Service Corps. There are a number of others like that where initially they are shocked that someone is questioning them, particularly someone from inside government like them. But I think eventually they realized that we're all on the same side.
What advice would you give to social media handlers of like the police, the NAFDAC, the NYSC, so as to be responsive to the people?
I think on any platform that one engages, you are a representative of the organization you work for. And for that reason, there are certain levels of decorum and behavior that you're expected to display. As you know, if you want to be fair, some people on social media hide behind the anonymity and can actually be quite abusive, and some can even be threatening. But I think the advice would be to be patient with people, to realize that a lot of people are actually frustrated for no fault of their own. You know, if youth unemployment is running at 45%, as it currently is, and it's difficult to get the youth into political office to make a change because of how much it costs to even run an election. People cannot find jobs. The cost of goods are going up. The country was in a recession. There's a heat wave. So all of these things boils over in a number of people, and they can get quite irritable and quite aggressive. I think the trick is to understand that and to be patient. A lot of people that are my most regular interlocutors on social media now, we started off with a difficult relationship. I think what they respected was the fact that I didn't react negatively. I didn't abuse back. I didn't, I tried to be as professional as possible. That doesn't mean that when someone says, it doesn't mean that when someone claps that I won't clap back. I will. But it will never be rude. It will never be inappropriate. And I'll always try to, diffuse whatever tension had brewed up. The truth of the matter, though, is that some people will dislike you whatever you say and whatever you do. Some people just do not like your guts. And you have to accept that. You have to accept that, and as much as possible, move away from those people so that they don't trigger unprofessional behavior in you.
Looking at the country now, are you also of the opinion that the unity of Nigeria is settled and non-negotiable?
I think it's important to have clear definitions about what we mean with these things, because I listen to a lot of debate around the country, and it's couched as so-called restructuring. But if you ask 10 people what restructuring means, you get 10 different answers. And so to some people, it's about going back to a regional structure. To some people, it's about doing away with the presidential system and bringing back the parliamentary. To some people, it's about reducing the quantum of resources consumed by the federal government, 52%, whereas all the other states and local governments get 48%. To some people, it's confederacy. To some others, it's complete secession. We don't even want to be. So what exactly do we mean by this word restructuring? And we need to very clearly articulate it so that when we're discussing it, we know we're on the same page. It's the same thing when you talk about the unity of Nigeria being settled. And so my question is, are we planning to have a different country other than Nigeria? Are we talking about splitting Nigeria into various little countries, balkanizing it? If not, then if we're still talking about having Nigeria, then it seems to me that the statement is right, that the unity of Nigeria is settled. If the unity of Nigeria is not settled, then we're looking to break Nigeria up into different nations and different countries. I don't know whether that's what we're talking about. If you're elected president one day, God willing, one of the solemn oaths you will swear is to defend the unity of Nigeria and to uphold its constitution. You have to swear that oath before you can become president. And so is it any surprise that you never hear any Nigerian president say that the unity of Nigeria is negotiable? They will not, because that is the oath they've sworn.
That means our constitution cannot give room for referendum, like doing a constitutional review?
Well, we can do a constitutional review, and I think we should. I've written extensively on why I think our constitution needs review. There are a number of different areas in which improvements to our constitution can be made. So if we improve our constitution, put in a provision for referendum, then we can discuss it. But for now, the president cannot. All he can do is express his personal opinion. He cannot actually put in place a referendum or deny a referendum. It's not within his gift to do so. And so the question is fairly academic, in my view. So if we want to get to a position where people are undertaking referenda, we need to put in place a mechanism within our constitution to make that possible. And then when that is possible, people can say, let's have a referendum and let's choose whether we want to stay within Nigeria or not. Until that stage, I think it's an academic argument.
Okay, so for those clamoring for regionalization, restructuring, what do you have to say to them?
If you ask me about each particular one, I can give you an opinion about each particular one. But I can't talk generally about restructuring because there are about 20 different definitions to it. Like I said, if what is desired is a referendum, then the proper channel will be to push for the constitutional review that will make a referendum a possibility. Looking
at the NGO bill, bringing about an NGO bill which has passed the first and second reading now. So do you think the NGO bill is necessary, looking at the fact that we have a CAC, which is to register every organization in the country? So I was saying the CAC is not competent, or the House wants to curb the actions of NGO. We should not forget the House said that some NGOs are being used to fund terrorism. Do you think this is enough reason to regulate the activities of NGO?
Okay, first of all, I haven't read the draft NGO bill. I apologize for that. I've seen certain graphic representations of what is alleged to be in the bill, but I don't work like that. I need to read the full bill to see what it's about in detail. But look, there's a fundamental truth we need to be aware of. One, the National Assembly has absolute rights to make law. There's no dispute about that. That power is enshrined in the supreme law of the land, the Constitution. So they have absolute powers to make laws. Okay? In the process of making those laws, there's a process of consultation. And so memoranda are invited, public hearings are held, and through those memoranda and public hearings, draft bills are supposed to be amended, and when they're amended to reflect what the National Assembly and the public wants, it goes through a process of passage, and when it's passed, it goes for assent by the president. If the president withholds assent after a period of time, the National Assembly can pass the same law with 2/3 majority. So there's a process that it goes through. Now, the issue is this. Are we questioning the very right of the National Assembly to ask questions of NGOs or not? I don't know whether that's what the bill is doing or not. Or is the bill seeking to unduly regulate and deny freedom of speech, freedom of association to NGOs? I don't know. Is the bill seeking to make NGOs more transparent in the way that they manage donor funding? I don't know. If the purpose, I think it's only a dishonest person that will not admit that, as there are very, very good, very, very credible NGOs, there are also some very questionable ones. I think you will be dishonest not to admit that. Anybody can wake up and set up any NGO. They can use that NGO for child trafficking. They can use it for sex trafficking. They can use it for money laundering. They can use it for terrorism. They can use it for all sorts of stuff. Whereas there are very many other NGOs that are doing very, very good public service, holding government to account, helping the delivery of public goods, working in health, working in education, working in sanitation, and all of those things. So, if the ambition of the bill is to try and sift the wheat from the chaff, I don't know whether that's necessarily a bad thing. Let's know actually who is an NGO, what are they doing, where do their sources of funding come from, what do they use it for, and all of those things. But if it's to muzzle dissent, then that is absolutely the wrong thing. The question you're asking is, do we need an NGO bill? And we may do, we may not. But like I said, the National Assembly has absolute power to make laws. And putting in place any bill is their responsibility to do. If people are not happy, they need to protest in public hearings. They need to send memoranda. They need to make their voices heard. If necessary, they need to go back to the communities of each of their legislators and tell them this is not what is wanted.
Don't you think the House of Assembly might want to use the NGO bill to stifle opposition party or any NGO that is ready to question the government? Don't you think this might be an attempt to hold them to silence?
If the purpose is to try and stifle public opinion, then I'm totally against it. And I'll advocate against that, because I think our democracy, our nationhood benefits from alternative opinion. And I think we should continue to encourage people to speak out. We should encourage people to continue to hold government to account. So if the purpose is to muzzle public opinion, then I'm totally against it.